Hi, welcome to Pub 375 Magazine Media Publishing. I'm very happy that you are in our class and we'll meet in tutorials. Right now, I would like to talk about the very basic foundational concepts that go into creating this class. But before I do that, I would like to acknowledge that at Harbor Center, our tutorials and where I'm recording right now all take place on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Unceded means that the land was never signed over to the Crown. This isn't a political statement, it is just a fact that most of BC is on unceded territory. For our lecture, I'm going to talk about the course timeline. I'm going to define what magazine media is. So this is our timeline. You can see we go through from week 1 all the way to week 13. And we move from introductions, talking about creative collaboration, teamwork, research, editorial design, brand, finances, marketing, pitching, journalism. So we cover a lot of ground in this course. And I talked a little bit about what this course is and what it isn't. And essentially, let's get into it. So maybe we should begin, since you've committed to this class, what is magazine media? When I first started teaching this course, I used a textbook called The Magazine from Cover to Cover. And it was an old textbook that they reissued. This was from the 2006 edition. And it was before smartphones, tablets, and magazines. Magazines were essentially just print products. So their definition defines a magazine as printed and bound publications, offering in-depth coverage of stories often of a timeless nature. Their content may provide opinions and interpretation as well as advocacy. They are geared to a well-defined, specialized audience, and they are published regularly with a consistent format. So obviously, we're dealing with a print paradigm in this definition as well. They're comparing a magazine to a newspaper, which wasn't bound and wasn't as timeless as magazines. In fact, the authors of this text go on later to say that magazines are so handy, you wouldn't want to hike to the top of the mountain with your computer or sit in the bath with your computer. But magazines have changed a lot. This is a slightly older slide. It goes to 2019, but I think it really starts to show what a magazine media enterprise is today. So you can see from 2018 to 2019, which they compare the revenue generated, the audience mix for 2018 and 2019 changed significantly, where you see a lowering of print and digital editions from 50% of their audience to 46% of their audience accessing these products. Mobile has increased quite a lot, and I imagine that it's increased significantly from these old data points. And video is becoming a bigger part of the product, and it doesn't even take into account podcasting, which has become a significant media force in magazines as well. But the point of this slide still holds, is that magazine media is not defined or constrained by print production anymore, and in fact you can be a magazine without having any print edition. But some of the things still remain the same. Magazines still offer in-depth coverage. We don't have the same time constraints as someone who has to produce information every day. Although often with our websites that we do want to produce fresh content on a daily or multiple times a week. Although magazines don't necessarily have to be investigative journalism, they can also contain short, snackable content, which many magazines find work best for their audience on their websites. So they can be timeless or time sensitive. Magazines offer services, entertainment, interpretation, as well as advocacy. So we call this the purpose of a magazine. What we really know now is that all print media has gone from the mass media to more niche media. And that gives us an opportunity to take a slice of a market and go in depth into that market area. We'll talk about niche and target audience in more detail as we go along, but it's important to know that these are very important aspects of magazine media. Magazine media enterprises are published regularly to make sure that their audience are not waiting to hear from their favorite publication, and the formats are generally consistent for the most part, unless mixing it up is part of the approach of the enterprise.